Welcome to another episode of my weekly podcast, Later That Same Life. I'm Larry Fedoruk, each week bringing you a topic, discussion, or story from our lives.
Season 7, Chapter 5.
World Cup
of
Soccer.
How much is wrong with the 2022 World Cup in Qatar? The country formerly known as Qatar, and in some cases still known as Qatar, depending on which talking sports head is on TV at the time. I saw one guy on an anchor desk throw live to his reporters in Qatar, and the one reporter did his entire spiel from Qatar. They couldn't even agree on a pronunciation at the same network. No one seems to be able to agree on one pronunciation, which is like a microcosm of the entire unholy mess that is this World Cup. Actually, I guess it's a holy mess, right? Strict and antiquated religious principles are part of the problem in Qatar, aren't they? Well, we'll get to that. Quick side note on pronouncers. Has anyone seen the TV ads for the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, part of the United Arab Emirates? The ads tout the constituency as a great place to invest, do business, and raise a family. Except the Abu Dhabian voiceover guy calls it Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi. I saw the spot on TV off and on for like 2 weeks before I even realized where the heck he was talking about.
Abu Dhabi.
Is that it now? It's not Qatar and Abu Dhabi, it's Qatar and Abu Dhabi? Hey, I want to be sensitive to how the locals say it, but pick one. Up here in Canada, we're confused. But back to Qatar.
We are looking at how to pronounce the name of this country located in the Middle East. How do you pronounce the name of this country? Qatar.
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 Right now I would like to present how to pronounce this word. Qatar.
Qatar.
Qatar? Equator?
Guitar.
Qatar.
Straightforward, it's Qatar.
Caterer. I will repeat more slowly. Qatar.
Qatar.
This is a relatively small peninsula in the Persian Gulf. Qatar.
Qatar?
Quasar.
Qatar.
Qatar.
Catherine.
Rocketton.
Qatar.
Qatar. Qatar. Squatter.
Qatar.
Qatar.
Avatar. So it's Qatar, not Qatar.
Hey everyone. Qatar.
And by the way, it is Qatar. And the World Cup 2022, the international championship of the sport of soccer, or football as it's known in most of the world. The governing body is FIFA. One of the F's in FIFA is for football. The other, by the way, is for federation, and the A is for association. So are they an association of a federation or a federation association? Or anyway, it's all of international football. The name makes no sense, which is why most people just say FIFA and leave it at that. I care little about sports and less about soccer. The most soccer I've ever watched are the game scenes in Ted Lasso. I actually believe that if the World Cup was not being played this year, oddly, in December, that we'd already be streaming the long-awaited third season of Ted Lasso. Seriously, I bet Jason Sudeikis and crew delayed the final season because the World Cup is on in December. Just another reason to be angry with FIFA. So, yeah, I care little about sports in general, but this 2022 World Cup has me riled. First of all, since its inception, and except for World War II, the World Cup is played mid-June to mid-July. But not this one. Why? Why in December? Because they awarded the event to Qatar. And in Qatar, in December, it's only about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, as opposed to June and July when it's like 150. Players in the summer would collapse and die in the middle of the pitch by half-time, and FIFA thought that might look bad for the game. This association federation awarded their prestigious tournament to a country that could not actually fulfill one of their main prerequisites, the ability to host a soccer tournament outdoors during the summer. Again, I don't really care that much, except that filthy fossil fuel money doesn't seem the best reason to break with hallowed tradition. You know who I feel sorry for? Those guys in the mall parking lots and on the street corners selling world flags and other soccer nonsense. I'll bet their business is way down this year, because most of the North American soccer world is already in winter mode. One of those guys is set up to do business in the strip mall parking lot near me. I walk by and see his car festooned with flags and hats et al. But where's the guy? There's no guy. Oh, right. It's winter. He's inside the car with the motor running and the heat on. World Cup in December. Strange. And we just had a World Junior Hockey tournament this past summer. What's going on there, sports nuts? Can't seem to follow a timetable? World Cup soccer in this part of the world should mean patios and street parties, not parkas and snowstorms. The Qatar World Cup was awarded way back in 2010 by then FIFA President Sepp Blatter, formerly known as Sepp Blatter. I'm kidding. Sepp Blatter, mired in corruption charges, sexual assault allegations. He was acquitted of some of those, but even recently, he told the Swiss media that awarding Qatar the 2022 World Cup was a mistake. He kind of threw his committee under the team bus, like he had nothing to do with that decision. Sepp Blatter. Still sounds like the name of a Star Wars character to me. In countries that are largely Christian-based, they talk about the separation of church and state. Key phrase, they talk a lot about it. And they mostly pretend that they do this. Yeah, like Americans, separate church and state. And by the way, Mr. President-elect, you'll be sworn in on a Bible. In many Islamic nations, they don't even pretend to separate mosque and state. You end up with governments run under strict religious principles. Iran is a glaring example of this right now. I don't think people mind living under rules of morality and decency that may or may not be based on a religion. But for some, they feel that their human rights are being infringed upon. So in Iran and many other nations in support, they are taking to the streets in protest. Qatar is an Islamic nation with strict principles. Their human rights record is abysmal. Yet they were awarded a major world sporting event, the 2022 World Cup of Soccer, as was Russia in 2018, also the Russian Olympics in China, and so on. People say, well, it's sports, games, a time to put aside our political differences and engage in fun and healthy competition. I wish that were so. I don't know that it ever was. I'm surprised more people aren't using the term sports washing. Some are, but not enough. As with the Saudis' investment in the Live Golf Tour or those Olympic Games I mentioned. Nations use sports to whitewash their reputation as oppressive dictatorships. Athletes and fans become mere pawns in this game, and that's the argument against forgetting our politics and just playing a game. They brought politics to the game. The term we use for it is sports washing. Qatar is sports washing. Under their religion-based government law, homosexuality is illegal. It means prison. LGBTQ2 people and their allies have expressed their objection to Qatar hosting a world festival of this nature. They voice fears of prosecution if visiting that country to attend events. Qatar's response was basically, hey, come to Qatar. You'll be fine. You'll be safe. Just don't be gay. How tolerant. How sensitive. A One Love armband began to appear, and many nations' teams who had already done videos supporting the LGBTQ2 community were going to wear those armbands during games. FIFA threatened teams with a team yellow card. If you're not familiar with soccer, that's a penalty. Teams, understandably, acquiesced. And I don't have a problem with that. There was a generic no discrimination armband as suggested by FIFA. That was a feeble attempt at the illusion of sensitivity. And officials told players to stay away from politics and stick to soccer. Again, it wasn't the players that first brought politics to the game. Plus, bulletin, players are humans with thoughts and feelings that often go beyond their day job. The German Football Association is actually taking FIFA to court over that One Love armband. We'll see how that goes. At one point, the entire German team posed for a photo with their hands over their mouths and captioned their social media post, "Denying our armband is like denying our voices." In a separate political protest, the team from Iran did not sing their national anthem in support of women and girls back home. Other teams took a knee during their anthems. Elite male athletes often have a reputation of macho insensitivity. Perhaps they deserve that stereotype, perhaps not. Personally, I find it refreshing that athletes of this level are showing an awareness to the issues of our day, and doing so not as individuals, but as a team. Anyone remember the 2010 World Cup in South Africa and the emergence of the vuvuzela, the long plastic horn-like noisemaker, so deafening you couldn't actually hear the play-by-play over the din? FIFA ended up banning them in stadiums. Point is, that was FIFA taking a stand. FIFA protects the game of soccer. No plastic horns, and none of those armbands supporting diversity. Also, because of strict Islamic law, the sale of alcohol, beer, during games is prohibited. Really unheard of during major sporting events. Not sure how I feel about this one. I mean, the FIFA president was correct when he said that people should be able to sit through a soccer game for about 3 hours without having to consume alcohol. Yeah, that's right if you put it that way. But sports and booze go hand in hand, especially soccer. Begs the question, how would a sober soccer hooligan behave? We don't know. There's never been one. If we were all perfectly sober during every sporting event, we might actually realize how uninteresting all of these sports are. Sports only works for spectators through an alcoholic haze. In Canada, when there are world sporting events that are in faraway time zones, they actually change the local liquor laws. Isn't that great? Bars can serve booze at 7 in the morning, because locally that's when the game is on. There's people in Canada who don't have regular access to clean drinking water, and governments seem to be doing little about it. But yet our lawmakers consider it a human right to have a beer while watching a game. It's 7 in the morning. We don't care. We'll change the laws. Can you imagine going to Qatar as a gay, beer-swilling soccer fan? It's like a death sentence. Speaking of human rights, Qatar is a very rich nation, but they used cheap migrant labor to build most of the World Cup infrastructure. The big stadiums and other buildings needed that will soon become white elephants? Migrant workers, overworked, underpaid, underfed, underhoused. There were scenes of workers en masse sleeping on pavement in the open blazing sun just to try and get some rest before their next long shift. Oh, you don't like it? Well, you're fired. Go back home. How many migrant workers died in Qatar since the World Cup was awarded? Conservative estimates, 6,500. And there is your 2022 World Cup. awarded in the shadow of fraud and corruption, built on the broken backs of migrant workers and held under the thumb of human rights abuse at the wrong time of the year with no beers. Fun? Wow. In this country, it is also interesting to watch the news report on all of these issues, like good, serious journalists will do. But then those same people quickly become giddy sports cheerleaders when they talk about Canada being part of the World Cup. Yeah, human rights, no gays, people died, but go Canada! Yeah, we are in this time, and we like our chances. Although we are Canadians, we're practical. We temper our expectations. We know how big the challenge of winning on a world stage is. We do tout our team, but we also know how to be happy with a good showing. I guess that's good, isn't it? Winning isn't everything. We're happy just to be there. There are 32 teams in the World Cup, the host country included. The host country always gets a bye into the tourney. That means Qatar has a team. They suck. Over the 4 years in between World Cups, nations and their soccer associations form their national teams, and they compete in various divisions to qualify for the World Cup. Soccer is also unique in that occasionally they will have games they call friendlies. That sounds so nice. A friendly. It's a game that means nothing, really. No points are awarded, no added status. It's just a game to see how well we each play. One of Canada's last friendlies before the World Cup was against Japan. And you know where they played?
Abu Dhabi.
Correct. Canada has not qualified for the World Cup since 1986. So in that way, yes, this is a big deal. And as the media seems to love to point out, most of the players on this current World Cup Canadian team weren't even born the last time Canada was in the World Cup. So hold on a second. You're saying that 36 years ago, today's young athletes weren't born yet? Ah, yes, fascinating insight. I think your math checks out. The 2026 World Cup was awarded to a Canada-USA hybrid bid, so as a co-host nation, we'll be in the next World Cup also. We could be a soccer force by 2026. Good national teams come from a strong soccer culture, and that culture certainly has grown in Canada since 1986. There was a time when some of the people today weren't even born. By the way, recently the New York Times wrote an article entitled "What's in the Water in Brampton?" Brampton is a good-sized city. It's part of the Greater Toronto Area. It has 7 of Team Canada's 26-man roster. 7 of the players were born, raised, or trained within the Brampton soccer system. As you know, the best players in the world actually play on some of the best teams in the world. Our Canadian star, Alphonso Davies, plays for a pro team in Germany. This is the case with all soccer squads on all continents. Each team is actually a rich mix of nationality and ethnicity. And if you're good enough, you are also called to your national team, an all-star combo of your country's best players. Of all the sports that have so-called world championships, soccer really has the greatest right to declare a World Cup. Alphonso Davies is of Liberian descent. He was born in a refugee camp in Ghana. He's a Canadian, and he plays professionally in Germany. So people in many, many nations would have a reason to cheer any team that he's on. With Canada in the World Cup, a rare appearance, it'll be interesting to see who some Canadians start to cheer for. Normally, Italians, Germans, Brits, Croatians, Koreans, et al., they cheer for their heritage team. But this time you also have to cheer for Canada. I guess they'll cheer for both teams until they play each other. Then you'll have to make a decision. Probably depends which flag you bought from that guy in the car at the mall parking lot. You know, in this corner of the planet, we love our Super Bowl, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the World Series, and many other bits of this and that. But soccer's World Cup certainly is the biggest on earth. And because of this, the tournament should be above reproach. I get it. Everything today is politicized. Shouldn't expect the World Cup to be any different. But we need a stronger FIFA to make that happen. You know, when Hockey Canada was exposed as a bunch of cronies mismanaging money, it was the local grassroots groups that chimed in and effected change. For a stronger FIFA, we need more national soccer associations to take a stand against their bad decisions. To reiterate, this is not about putting our politics aside to play sports. That possibility ended years ago. Politics, sports, human rights, even local liquor laws. It's all life, and it's all intertwined. You can no longer ignore one and just carry on with another. Best advice I ever got. You can go out to play when you finish your homework. Let's finish our homework. Then we can play all we want. I have to admit, as much as this World Cup has me angered on all these many levels that I've talked about, and as little as I care about sports, when the opening whistle goes on a game that Canada is in, it will be on at least one screen in my home. And I might end up cheering out loud and maybe getting emotional. You know, those sports presenters, they're really good at building that stuff up. And it works, even on the most jaded people like myself. So I will stop pissing on everyone's soccer cornflakes, say go Canada go, and maybe at the end of the day, or first thing in the morning with a beer, the intended spirit of international competition in a healthy atmosphere of mutual respect and sportsmanship might actually happen for at least a minute or two.
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.